What is going on, guys? So we have a lot to go over here regarding the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to be talking about James Bradberry, some updated things that have been said from Adam Kaplan, Jeff Kerr, about his future with the Eagles and why they are keeping him or not keeping him, and why it makes sense or why it doesn't make sense, depending on how your opinion kind of takes it. And with the Philadelphia Eagles going into this draft, could the Eagles stay in the same path they have been the last couple of years at a specific position? And does it make sense? And then lastly, we're going to go over Paris Campbell, the new receiver for the Eagles, talking about what Saquon can do in this offense with the amount of weapons that we do have and how much it's going to change. Paris Campbell might think that Saquon will be the best running back in the league, even on top of Christian McCaffrey. So let's get into it all.
Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yo, what is going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a fantastic day today. So I want to go over a few things here. Now, we're going to go over some news in the James Bradberry, because I think as of every day, things do get updated on where maybe there's some inside reports of what the Eagles might do with him, and, is he staying, is he leaving? And so far, it looks like James Bradberry is staying a Philadelphia Eagle, okay? Jeff Kerr had some things to say, two opposite things that were said here. So Jeff Kerr had some things to say about James Bradberry, saying, I think James Bradberry is going to have a much better year. When you give up 9 passing touchdowns, you're bound to have a better season, okay? Now, a rebound year for James Bradberry isn't considered, we could consider that that's probably maybe going to happen, okay? I know we were down on him last year, and I think a lot of these players, guys, were put into really bad situations. Nick Sirianni to Sean Desai to Matt Patricia. This defense was set up to fail last year. Unfortunately, every position was flawed. Nobody was set up for success. It was just between down the road, the mentality, sense of urgency, everything kind of went out the window. Players were starting to give up in game, and the coaching staff was just the players were just giving up on this coaching staff at some point. Luckily, with James Bradberry being here, the good thing about this offseason is this: you hired 2 new coordinators. With Vic Fangio coming to the mix now, there's going to be more accountability. There's going to be the best man is going to be coaching this specific scheme, okay? James Bradberry played really well under Vic Fangio when he was a consultant in 22, before he left a couple weeks before the Super Bowl, okay? James Bradberry ain't no shutdown. Athletically, I don't think he's good enough to be in this defense. That's just me. But I think once your pass rush hits home, your defensive line hits home, which it didn't last year. Your cornerbacks are playing off ball. So I think schematically, or at least like when you're talking about metrics and what James Bradberry could do from an athletic standpoint, I just don't think he's good enough. I think there's a lot more guys in this draft that are better. I think there's corners in this draft that are better. Even going to the second round, I think there's a lot of corners better. You have 2 aging cornerbacks right now. Because realistically, last offseason, I thought James Bradberry and, Darius Slay were going to be gone. I thought we were losing Darius Slay to the Ravens. Then he came back for more money. And then obviously James Bradberry was kind of waiting to see what the market was going to be. And we got James Bradberry for a lot cheaper. When he played last year on the start of his new contract, he was like not even the 15th highest paid corner in the league. So we got him on a cheaper price, thank God. So Adam Kaplan came out with some news as well, saying the significant guarantee of $10.8 million fully guaranteed this season is why they're holding on to Bradberry. They're looking to replace him. So so he thinks, so this is the total opposite. So he thinks they're just holding on to Bradberry because, his cap number's too high. And so far, this looks like a bad contract. But how much are you taking out of Bradberry's play last year? Was it more Bradberry? Was it more play calling? Or was it more of both? A little bit of both. And I think it was definitely a lot of both. Okay, it doesn't matter. Look at our offense. You two 1,000-yard receivers, 1,000-yard running back, and you still looked horrible. Didn't have a dominating game last season. Okay, it's there's a lot of things I'm taking into account this year from what happened last year. When you win too many ugly games, it's not a good thing. 1 or 2 ugly games is fine. Every game is turning into a crapshoot. It's a problem. And with James Bradberry, I think as a veteran player playing on the outside as a number 2 where he shouldn't have a lot of pressure on him because obviously I don't think he would be that number 1 guy here because I thought as a number 2 he played really well. He had a good offseason coming off of really not having great seasons with the Giants. Really before he got to the Eagles, he gave up over 800 yards receiving. Okay, he didn't play well with the Giants defense. I think it's all about this coaching staff and how they use these players. And I'm not a big fan of James Bradberry, but I'm not a big fan of this coaching staff even more, okay, even last year. By the end of the year, I was kind of done, and I can't blame the players that much. If you're forced to play out of position and you're not coached right and you're just going through the motions at this point, changing defensive coordinators throughout the year, do I give James Bradberry another chance? I think there should be at least a good competition because James Bradberry only costs like $4 million against the cap this year. The 10.8 fully guaranteed is where if you post-June cut him, then you could split that money up into a couple years with a 2-year extension. So Bradberry would have to say, hey, I'll take the 2-year extension, cut me, and it'll help the Eagles and it'll help Bradberry out. But the problem is, if they're not cutting him by now, it wouldn't be fair to cut him post-June. He's a starter in the league, obviously, especially with the Eagles. And the way they could have post-June cut Avonte Maddox for that $7.1 million, and they didn't. They just cut him immediately, and they saved $2 million. They gave him the respect to go seek other teams. Bradberry at this point, if he's not released at this point, it's too late to release him now. It's too late to post-June cut him and extend him and, cut that cap space, that dead cap and spread it out a little bit. This way you can just eat it up and be done with it. But it seems like I think they want to keep him. I think they like what they have in the room, especially with the depth in this room. Hence why I don't think, besides Cooper DeJean, because nickel I think is still wide open even with Maddox coming back this late in the process, I think they really want to develop guys. And I think you should develop guys. And I get it. You want to draft guys, develop them, see what you have in the building and develop guys like this. Keely Ringo, Eli Ricks, and some of these other Isaiah Rodgers coming to the mix now. Tyler Hall being a pure nickel that can play outside and safety. So there are guys in the building right now that they can really look up to and say, hey, let's try to produce some of these guys, see what they could do. I'm excited. I think the Eagles have the most perfect depth when it comes to cornerback. It's just Zach McPherson coming back off the ACL. So there's a lot going on for this cornerback position. But obviously after this year, could potentially lose Slay, and Bradberry probably could be gone after this year. So I think, they're just going to get by this year with Bradberry and probably cut him. And I want to see in camp, I want to have a good an off-season program where they're actually bringing minicamp back. We're actually going to hopefully have some harder practices and more demanding practices. What you practice is what you preach, okay? And those practices, get you prepared for games every week. And obviously that didn't work out too well. So a lot of control in Vic Fangio's hands right now when it comes to this defense, and we'll see what they do. Not saying they won't add another corner in this draft. If it's Cooper DeJean, if it's not him, then they'll draft somebody mid-round. You know what I mean? That maybe is more of a zone fit, off-ball fit. That has the qualities of good tackling and stuff like that, and shed blocks really well. So there are some, corner runs deep, I think, for this scheme. But for best player, you could move up and go get somebody. So we'll see what happens. But the Bradberry thing, I think, is put to rest as of right now, unless things do dramatically change, where I don't think corner will be on the high list for the Eagles. So two opposites here. Some think he'll have a rebound year. And I think we have to give Bradberry credit, or every player credit, that they should have a rebound year this year, because you're at least going to have pressures this year at your defensive line. Okay, Fangio was ranked 3rd in pressures last year with the Miami Dolphins, so he knows how to use these linebackers, this defensive line. Obviously, losing Reddick and that's a whole different story, how they're replacing him, or at least getting more of a scheme fit, and what's going to be the next man up mentality there, or at least if they're going after somebody in this draft, we'll see. But that's the news on that. Now, we talk about the Eagles draft and how much of a big question mark it is. It's for me, it's one of the toughest drafts I've ever seen, because I've never been so unsure of what they're going to do. Okay, I might be like, oh, well, this makes sense and that makes sense, but it can always change. Okay, do the Eagles go 3 years straight going after a DT in the first round? Do they go after a Byron Murphy, which honestly will be a big pick for the Eagles? And do they put more at that position? Does it make sense because Milton Williams is having a better year every single year, but do the Eagles pay, Milton Williams after this year? Because he is a free agent. So things need to be thought about, come to that regard of the defensive line. Josh Sweat's gone. Milton Williams is gone. You already lost Reddick. So, I mean, you got Bryce Huff here, for the long haul now. So, I mean, you're losing guys. Brandon Graham's going to retire after this year. Three defensive linemen could be gone from the Eagles. And I don't think it takes it out of question that they could go the same path. Do I agree with it? No. But now with Reddick gone, I mean, who knows? You know what I mean? I know this is two different positions, but I'm just talking about the whole defensive line as a whole. But DT this year would be interesting. Or do they say, hey, we can move back a little bit and get, maybe Brandon Dorless, I mean, that could play inside and outside and could do some different things for this team. So, I mean, if they want to go a step down or even go get Michael Hall Jr. as a second to third, a second round, to a late second to an early third pick, wherever he's going to go. So there are guys out there. Like, I don't think DT goes as deep as everyone thinks it does. I think there's like at least 3 or 4 that could fit. Nealon, Marshawn Nealon's another guy that they've, been interested in because he's played off ball and the edge. So, if they, I think they need to get guys that are, they get guys especially that are, hybrid type guys, especially DTs that can play outside and inside is great because Milton Williams is that type of player too. But you're playing the 3-4, you're playing multiple fronts. So I'm interested to see if they actually go this direction going forward. And, would I be shocked over it? No. But Howie loves the trenches and, is he stubborn enough to move to another position? You know what I mean? Would he be less stubborn enough to move to another position, outside of DT for another year? With Jalen Carter already there, obviously Jordan Davis will play the nose. So I think we're right at that. I think we're great, and we're building around these young guys. And, some guys need to have big years. And, would the Eagles go another year of a DT because of how much you're losing on your defensive line? Next year, next offseason to become free agents. So I think that would be interesting. And lastly, I want to go over Paris Campbell on some things that he did say about, Saquon Barkley coming to the Eagles. So he says, I know there's a bunch of debate between him and Christian McCaffrey, and don't get me wrong, Christian McCaffrey is by far one of the best running backs in the league, but being able to see Saquon up close and personal, being in the same locker room on the same team, man, he's a different guy when he's on the field. Honestly, and running behind that offensive line we have, I think it's going to be pretty scary for defenses. And I totally agree with that. I think as an Eagles fan and as a fan of the NFL, whether you're a fan of another team, I think everybody just wants to see what Saquon would do with another team. Because I think besides like the Panthers and maybe another team, I think it would have been Saquon would be an upgrade wherever he went because the Houston Texans were going really hard for Saquon in free agency. The Houston Texans were there first. The Eagles showed up second and were pushing hard. After Swift signed, like, within the first, 10, 15 minutes of free agency, I was like, damn, that was really quick. You know what I mean? So a lot of questions regarding that, but we're kind of past that now. But to see Saquon in a backfield with a top 3 offensive line, monster receivers, just all around, and a quarterback, and a mobile quarterback on top of it with Jalen Hurts, the RPOs, what they could do with Saquon, this Kellen Moore system. I mean, man, as a pass catcher, as a receiving back, I mean, I know Saquon's going to be used heavily, in the passing game, and that's great. You know what I mean? I thought he did a good job with Austin Eckler. We've seen what he did with Tony Pollard and some of these other ones too. So I think he's done a fantastic job with a lot of those guys, and loves to get those running backs into if Saquon's not running with the football at times, he's going to be getting the ball in his hands. It's going to happen. They're going to be getting him in the passing game, get this thing going. I think every NFL fan wants to see Saquon, what he would do on a different team. I think the Eagles was the best spot for him, regardless. I think it was the best spot because the Eagles are more ready for a Super Bowl, their offense, the weapons that they have. There's no excuse. I mean, there's really not. And all the Eagles can do in this draft is add to it, really, when you think about it. So Paris Campbell, I mean, look, I think he's correct on this statement. And I think if if Saquon Barkley was drafted to another team with better weapons, he probably could have been the best running back in the league instead of being wasted on the Giants for so long, where they always had bad contracts. They never built the offensive line. They went through 3 head coaches, no offensive line. They never got a number 1 receiver. Really, since Odell Beckham left, it really fell apart after that. I mean, they were falling apart there. That was the starting point. The last year Beckham was there, that was like the second to last year when Beckham was there. That was like the starting point because they really didn't upgrade anything else. I mean, there was nothing scary about the Giants. Literally, Saquon Barkley has given his blood, sweat, and tears to that organization that if they valued him that much as they did, they would have just paid him. They would have just made it work and paid him, and they didn't. It has nothing to do with, yes, it has a lot to do with money, but if you know that he's the guy and you got to keep him and you're saying, I'm not letting anyone go, just like Howie Roseman's like, you know what, Devontae Smith, he's not, you don't let a guy like that out the building. Like, if you have that type of attitude, like, you're not letting the guy out of the building, you're getting him a contract extension, and they didn't give it to him. So what? Saquon's the 3rd highest paid? What is it? McCaffrey, I think Joe Mixon, I think it's Saquon after that. I think he's the 3rd best. I have to go over the number. I thought Joe Mixon got more money than I think he got more money. I'm not sure, but it should be interesting. I'm really excited about this offense. You have a 3-down back now that's getting $12 million per year. I mean, it's insane how much money we put into a running back. It's different because we never do it, so that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm excited about the draft coming up. Let me know what you guys think about, obviously, the news on, do you think, James Bradberry is going to have a rebound year? You guys let me know. Do you think the Eagles go a 3rd straight year going DT? Do you think they hit this position once more again because of, obviously, some of the free agents that will be gone and the Eagles not paying specific guys going to the 25 off season in free agency? Do you think they go a different route? What do you guys think? And what do you think, what do you think Saquon's going to bring to this offense going forward? I think it's interesting. So, other than that, guys, you guys have a fantastic day. We do cover the Eagles every day, so definitely subscribe to the channel, like the video for, just more support. Appreciate it so much from everybody. You guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Shakes what up, follows, Eagles fly. I can't talk today. Peace out.